everyone thought I got busted for this drugs. And they're like, okay, he got taken down for this drug operation. It was on the golf course. I had just arranged a 5-kilo deal because Al Wilson said, hey, we would like to start sending some product to Australia. Can you drop off some kilos? That was that buy they needed. They wanted to show the drugs. So I fell for it. Did I fall for it? Listen, I was already knee deep. I said, yeah, we can get whatever you want. I had one of my workers drop off 5 kilos in San Diego. It was all under surveillance. And I knew it was off. Something felt off. The deal went too smoothly. You know, the cash was given. They said, do you want to piggyback on our load? We'll allow you to put a couple kilos on and we'll send some to Australia because we know you're doing that. So the whole thing, like, how do they put this all together? They knew. I knew. Whether I wanted to admit it or not back then, seeing myself in that 6x8 cell, I knew these guys knew all along, and I knew like, this was it. I was just playing the game, and I was ready to just get out of that life.
Hey guys, welcome back to part 3. Part 3. You know, I don't do this to you very often, but that's how good this story is. It's the part 3 interview of Owen Hanson, former member of the USC two national championship football teams, went to college on a soccer scholarship, became an entrepreneur in a business that I fought against for most of my life.
Volleyball scholarship.
What'd I say?
You said soccer.
Oh, sorry. I meant to say volleyball because all my kids played soccer, but it was a volleyball scholarship here. If you've listened to the 2 parts, if you haven't listened to the 2 parts, please go back and listen to those because what we're getting ready to talk about is not going to make a whole lot of sense. But we've got this young man. He's been doing business here in the United States. He's been doing business in Mexico. He's been doing business in Costa Rica, in Australia, other countries of the world, all over the United States. And where we are now, he is in debt, $4 million to a Mexican cartel. And as I said on yesterday's episode, we made an agreement before this started that we will not identify the cartel, nor will we identify the people that are involved from that cartel. And that's because Owen has family members that could suffer serious retribution if we identify that. So that's an agreement we made. We live up to our agreements. There's nothing to be gained by any of us knowing that. So if you think you're going to hear that, you're not going to, but you're going to hear the rest of the interesting part of this. Some of the things he's telling me, I don't know if you're seeing me on the camera or him, but I'm just kind of sitting here spellbound. And I read the book. I know what happens, but to hear it from the horse's mouth here is just so much more interesting. And it's an insight into the left side of the thin blue line, where what is the criminal element doing? What is it they're scared of? How are they accomplishing their mission? We're here at a law enforcement conference in Southern California. He's the guest speaker this afternoon. I'm going to be on stage with him. And that's the purpose of having these conferences, so we as investigators can learn from the mistakes that they make or the mistakes that we made. Okay, enough of that. So, Owen, thank you again for coming back for part 3 here. As we left it yesterday, you had been shipping cocaine dissolved in bottles of wine to Australia. I think you said there's only about a half kilo per bottle. That takes a lot of wine to move. I don't know how much. What's a typical load of cocaine that your people want you to send over?
You know, we're sending between 5 and 10 kilos. So, yeah, you're right. It's taken a while. And people are starting to get greedy, and they're seeing that payback, that big number, and they want their cut. And that
chemist
got me. He wanted 50%.
Wow. He went from $2,000 to 50%.
So they tell me, right? Who knows? Maybe it was my guy. But at the end of the day, 50% we're not going to be paying. By the time I exchange the money into U.S. dollars and get it back at 25% fee, I'm making, profiting a couple $1,000, and it's not worth it for me.
It's not worth the risk. See, for me, it wouldn't be the risk even when you're making $1 million a day. I can lead a tactical operation and kick a front door when I know somebody has a gun on the other side. I would be in therapy if I was doing some of the things that you were doing. I just couldn't do that.
Yeah. So, but I did owe that cartel, and like my father told me, you pay back people that you owe money to, no matter who they are.
Yep. And so you're still on the hook for $4 million. And now you got to come up with other methods to smuggle cocaine into Australia. What's next?
Yeah, like Steve, I want to say real quick before I forget, I don't usually talk about this much of the book on podcasts, but I feel like this is my give back to you guys as law enforcement for saving my life. I shouldn't be alive. And if I wasn't arrested by you guys, I wouldn't be here today. So that's why I'm going into depth and telling on your show more than I've told on any show before. So please know that.
Yeah, I very much appreciated. This is the book we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen, The California Kid. You can get this on Amazon. As I've said in the last 2 episodes, it's a book once you start reading, you'll have a hard time putting it down. You can see it was interesting enough for me that I tabbed all these places because these are things that really piqued my interest that I wanted to talk to Owen about. And that's what we're talking about on the podcast. So what you're hearing here on Game of Crimes from Owen Hanson, you're not going to hear anywhere else. He's doing this especially for us. So thank you so much for bringing that to our attention. I appreciate it, Owen.
Yeah. So I went back to that Rolodex, Steve, and what's that Rolodex have? USC again, Where am I going to go?
It sounds like everybody goes to USC is crooked.
Yeah, not crooked, but listen, they're willing to
take a
chance
yeah.
And take a chance with Beto Dog. Because at the time, that's what I was. I was this black market concierge, and I went to my friend's wedding, USC. My best friend at USC was getting married, and I knew at that wedding that there would be a man that I needed to infiltrate and get into his pockets, as I call it. And he was the head of a logistics company that shipped European chocolate from Europe into the U.S., and he distributed it throughout the U.S. And I knew he would be a big factor to this scheme I had going on as far as getting the cocaine into Australia. Now, I had to think outside the box, and this was the chocolate box now. The chocolate box consisted of me going to this wedding and getting into his pockets. And the way I thought of it, I was going to offer him $50,000 cash. And I figured no one's going to turn down $50,000 cash. I don't care if you're that USC kid. $50,000 cash anybody can use. And I was going to offer to him on a monthly basis. And all I was asking for was his expired chocolate. That's right. Expired chocolate. I already knew he had a 20,000 square foot warehouse. I did my homework. He had millions of dollars of product, and I'm talking about chocolate. So I knew he had expired chocolate because most companies that deal with food have expired goods. So right. I went to him and I said, hey, I'm going to give you $50,000 cash. I just want your expired chocolate, nothing else. He was a little drunk at the time, and he says, yeah, let's do it. So I agreed with him, but I wanted to talk to him over coffee once he sobered up. And after the wedding, I met him the next 2 days later in the South Bay where I'm from, and I broke it down to him. Look, I need your expired chocolate. I'm going to come in. I'm going to grab that chocolate. I'm going to have my crew come in there. They're going to load some things up. We're going to take the pallet. He goes, no, I want to be there. I said, you sure you want to be there? I said, I'm doing something that's illegal. I let him know. He goes, $50,000. I don't care. So I came after, 6 p.m. once his employees had left, and I brought my crew in there. And the first run, we did 50 kilos.
Wow.
No, excuse me. The first run, we did 10 kilos to do the test. Sorry about that. Later on, we would do 50. So I came in there with 10 kilos, and he showed me the expired chocolates, 2 pallets. He says, we got these 2 pallets. I said, okay, give me 1 pallet for now. And I came in there with my crew, and we started taking boxes of chocolates and taking out the bars of chocolates, and we put a kilo in, put some bars on top, wrap it back up, and put a part of the pallet. And I would be there with my highlighter, and I would know each box that I had every kilo in.
And you're leaving it in a kilo brick? You didn't break the brick down?
Didn't break it down.
Okay.
I was going for it. So I knew he's already has these chocolates, and I knew that he already had these logistics routes. And I was like, okay, my idea is I was going to ship this chocolate now into another country and then pray that they wouldn't open it. My idea was like, okay, they can open the first 20 cases and they're going to see it's chocolate. But down at the bottom, this is a 4-foot pallet. Down at the bottom, I'm going to have these 10 kilos hidden. And sure enough, it worked. They got the pallet over there in Australia. The first round, they're like, dude, we can't even find it. Where is it? I said, so I pulled out that composition notepad, and I said, okay, go to box 13, box 16, open it there. There's one there. And I broke it down, and they're like, wow, this worked.
Who are the people opening those boxes in Australia?
So come to find out, the people in Australia have someone that works at the carriers, right? So it's called I'll just say, let's say there's DHL, FedEx, UPS. They have someone on the inside that pulls it off. Now, it's called the sniff test, where it has to basically be covered up until it passes customs. And what happens is those agencies now work hand in hand with DHL, FedEx, and they basically see the package, and if it looks good, they'll take it and it goes. But if there's packages that are, has some suspicion, then they get inspected. So my guys told me over there is like, if you can make it look pretty, he goes, we'll have someone clear it at a fee. And then once they clear it, you're good. So I knew that I just had to make it look pretty.
Are the recipients over there, are they Mexican or are they Australian?
No, Australian.
Okay.
Yeah. And then they have people on the inside that are getting paid a fee to, clear it.
And then they deliver it to whatever address you put.
Exactly.
And those are your people.
Those are my people.
Okay. And then who was taking possession of all where was the cocaine being distributed to in Australia?
They had people that, distributed it, probably, biker gangs, Asians. That's not my business. At the end of the day, I just care about getting El Jefe's money back. Right. So I try not to pry. I feel the more you ask, the worse it is. So,
the more suspicious you are.
Yeah, I don't want to look like a cop.
You look like me here and asking you all these questions. What other methods did you try that were successful?
Artwork. I had a way to put it in art. Candles. I would use these scented candles where the dogs wouldn't smell it. We'd layer a bunch of candles that were scented, and I'd put it in between the candles, and I'd try like a couple at a time. These artwork frames I had, and I'd break it down real thin so it looked like part of the canvas.
And that worked?
And that worked, yeah.
Any others? Any other ideas?
That was it on that. I eventually, El Jefe was eventually going to have me have a sailboat go out there. We had a compartment made on a 55-foot catamaran that would fit 80 bricks.
From where? Coming from where?
Coming. It was going to come from Ensenada into Newport Beach, and then from there we were going to go Newport Beach to Hawaii, and then cross over from there to Australia. That was eventually that was going to be my last hurrah to make my own money.
That's such high risk to the personal safety of the people on that boat.
That's right, but these people are willing to take that risk for millions of dollars.
Yeah, I probably won't ever understand that. So now you're collecting money over there. You're getting El Jefe's money back together.
Getting it. I'm finally there.
Now, how are you going to get it back to him?
We had the couriers now. We had a courier now that was taking 25%, and they were handling all the money through Dubai.
So are these wire transfers?
Wire transfers, yep.
Not a physical.
Not a physical. Sometimes if I needed some cash, like to pay workers, I could get physical cash dropped off from El Jefe's team, but
no gold bars, no gold bars.
We're done with all that.
No euros anymore.
This is just strictly payback El Jefe, get this thing taken care of and be done with this thing.
What kind of commission are you having to pay to get the wires done?
25%.
Wow.
Heavy. Everyone had that way. Sometimes we get down to 23. I mean, it was heavy.
So I know when back in my days there, especially in South Florida, the commission was, for money laundering, the commission was usually like 6%.
Oh, 7%. Yeah, in the U.S. for sure. But international, you're talking the hardest place in the world.
Yeah.
They know what they can charge.
Wow.
And then you got to realize I started to work with this money laundering team that my contacts over there sent me, these money laundering magicians.
Yeah. Were they Mexicans also?
No, they were Americans.
Yeah.
And they infiltrated my guys over in Australia on a boat. I think you'll probably remember the story on the book. And I remember my Australian contacts said, hey, we have some guys that are going to launder the money for half of what we're paying, like 12%, I think it was.
Mm-hmm. Did that set off a red flag for you there?
It did. But this is where I feel like this was my escape. These guys were sent from Australia. They sent them to me, so I'm going to use them. But once that kicked in, that I knew something was wrong, I just kept going. I knew something was wrong. I knew it was coming. Like, this was my exit strategy for me. Mm-hmm. They gave me the money launderers. I started using them.
Who's they gave you?
My Australian contacts met these guys at a yacht party that infiltrated them. Ended up being the FBI. They infiltrated them, started doing business with them on the yacht, and said, hey, we launder money for anybody. This is our business. My guys fell for it. They said, oh, well, we need this, because they already knew that I needed a way to get the money back to the U.S. So obviously the FBI was doing their homework and seeing who I was dealing with over there, and they infiltrated him on this yacht party. And next thing you know, I'm using this group to launder my money back, $250,000 at a time. Mm-hmm. And unbeknownst to me, it's the FBI.
Who's this guy Cipriani that you're headed to?
So Cipriani is the gambler.
Okay.
He was the gambler that was laundering the money for me through the casinos. But he's out of the picture right now.
Okay.
Remember, he's now, unbeknownst to me, working with law enforcement to take me down. So they're watching me for the last 4 years.
And he continued to contact you throughout, trying to get you to do things, trying to incriminate yourself.
Come on, I'm going to launder some money for you through the casinos. I already knew. You don't talk like that on the phone.
Right.
Yeah. What's your account number so I can put some money in it? Like, come on. You ain't paying me back. You're trying to see where my money's at.
That was when I read that part about where they're offering you 12.5%, and in your book, that's before the light bulb has gone on as to who these guys are. But for me, that was like, oh, that's got to be cops.
I knew it was wrong, because Tank, one of my right-hand soldiers that worked for me, he was dropping off cash in, I remember, New Jersey. And he dropped off $50,000 at a Starbucks. And he says the guy showed up in a Tommy Bahama shirt. And he's like, these aren't money launderers, dude. This is the feds.
Yeah.
I said, no, it's not. I said, this came from my contact in Australia. It's not the feds. I kept tricking my mind, but I knew I was dead, and I knew this was my escape. This is how I had to go.
Would you say that's your greed factor kicking in?
My greed it was more instinct to get this boss paid back and be done with this game. I knew it was coming. I knew my days were over, and this was the only way I was going to get out. I just sensed it.
If they had, in that initial meeting, instead of saying 12.5%, if they had said 20%, would you have jumped on it?
I would have kept going. I was just working. I didn't care. They could have said 30%. I didn't care, because I just wanted to pay back El Jefe. My idea is get him paid back. Then that's off my shoulders.
And listen, I'm not second guessing the undercover agents that were doing this. Obviously it was successful, but it seems to me like that was such a reduction. And as you just explained, the fee is so much higher doing international transfers.
And El Jefe knew. He says, these are cops. He told me on the encrypted phone. He says, you're working with the feds now. He goes, no one's going to just do that. And he knew, but I was like, listen, these came from my Australian contacts. We're doing it. They're the ones that gave it to me. Let's run with it.
So did you get El Jefe paid back?
Got him paid back. Thank God. Two weeks before my arrest.
Oh, is that right? That close?
That close. And he asked me that $1 million question, what do you want to do? I said, well, I want to keep working. I feel like I owe him, right? But let's forget. Like, I was already dead to right. I owe this man. This guy didn't kill me. I was saying I want to keep working because I know I want to keep him happy. Yeah. And I knew I was done.
Yeah.
People say, oh, you want to keep working. That's what got you. No, I was gone. I was done a long time ago. The feds were after me. I was watching this happen. I was running license plates while I was driving, and they were coming back private. They were coming back to P.O. boxes. I knew that was the feds.
What was your drug usage at the time?
I was doing an 8-ball a day, GHB. I'd probably take, probably a quarter water bottle full of GHB.
Oh my gosh.
And I would drink it out of a Purell bottle, those hand sanitizer bottles, and I just sprayed it in my mouth like it was a mouthwash.
And tell our listeners what GHB is.
The pharmaceutical name is gamma hydride biperoxide, I think it is, right?
But it's used for what?
But it's used for, it was used at the time legally for insomnia, and bodybuilders would use it. But then later down, they figured out that people would use it in drinks of women, and it was the date rape drug. But the actual chemical is a floor cleaner, right?
Concrete cleaner. And Owen and I had a conversation before we started recording these interviews, and I've seen photographs where doctors have shown a healthy brain, and then they've shown a brain that's been using GBL or GHB,
yep.
And it looks like moths have actually eaten holes through that brain. and the intellectual capability of these people. This was the brain of a 19-year-old who eventually overdosed. That's where they got the pictures. And it was just unbelievable, and it hurts me to know you did that.
Yeah.
But obviously, I mean, you're still sharp as a tack, so maybe not, but you're snorting Coke, you're drinking GHB or GBL.
Taking Xanax every night to go to bed. Drinking like a fish. I mean, that was the only way I could keep my anxiety down. And it was like, I'm taking this just to keep the nerves at bay.
Did you ever go to rehab during that time?
Yeah, I did. And my ex-wife was like, I'm going to leave you. And I said, well, I'll go to rehab. It didn't help. I already knew that I went to rehab. I was just going to come back out and do it again because she didn't know. No one knew I had this marker over my head. And I remember telling her, I'll just take Vicodin when I play golf because it loosens me up. Well, I was golfing 7 days a week after that. Like I just made an excuse to take this Vicodin.
Yeah. Wow. How many times did you go to rehab?
I went 2 times, and the second time I told her I was going, and I ended up flying out there with some girls and not even showing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Now you're playing golf on a regular basis because that's a good way to do business. You're playing at the best country clubs here in Southern California, whether it's Orange County or all the way down to San Diego. There's a guy named, is it Greg?
Al Wilson. Greg was his partner.
Okay. And these are the guys that are doing the 12.5% thing with you.
12.5, $250,000 every week, cash, dropping off in Australia, picking it up in the U.S. We'd meet on the golf course sometimes to do the deals. They'd bring me, bags of cash minus their commissions. They're gambling with me on the golf course. They're betting on my website with me. They're one of the fellas drinking alcohol with me.
How long did this continue? How long did they launder money for you?
6 months.
What would be the estimated amount of money they laundered?
I would have to say over $5 million easily.
Wow.
Yeah.
But, a lot of people, they kind of look at us as law enforcement that, we're laundering bad guys' money for them. So we're facilitating their criminal activities. But that's how you take these organizations down. That's how you identify what accounts are involved, other people. That's how you take down an organization. So there's I don't need to explain it. You know this. I'm saying it more for our listeners. There's a method to the madness here. It's almost like you got to pay to be successful in our job.
Pay to play, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah, you're paying. You're doing this for me in order to find out where these shell corporations are set up, whether they're offshore or in the Caymans, wherever it may be. You guys are doing this in order to see my logistics on my money, because that's what's the number one rule: follow the money.
Yeah, absolutely. And you want to identify the organization, so you just don't want to take off the head of the snake. You want to take that snake and chop it up into little pieces. It's kind of a bad analogy when you were the head of the snake, right? Now, is your sports betting business still rolling?
It's rolling. It's making me money. It's surviving. It's employing, 30 employees that are working for me. And, up to that arrest, the business was still running. Everyone thought I got busted for this drugs. And they're like, okay, he got taken down for this drug operation. It was on the golf course. I had just arranged a 5-kilo deal because Al Wilson said, hey, we would like to start sending some product to Australia. Can you drop off some kilos? That was that buy they needed. They wanted to show the drugs. So I fell for it. Did I fall for it? Listen, I was already knee deep. I said, yeah, we can get whatever you want. What do you want? I had one of my workers drop off 5 kilos in San Diego. It was all under surveillance. And I knew it was off. Something felt off. The deal went too smoothly. The cash was given. They said, do you want to piggyback on our load? We'll allow you to put a couple kilos on and we'll send some to Australia because we know you're doing that. So the whole thing, like how do they put this all together? They knew. I knew. Whether I wanted to admit it or not back then, seeing myself in that 6x8 cell, I knew these guys knew all along, and I knew this was it. I was just playing the game, and I was ready to just get out of that life.
What would you estimate your net worth at during this time?
I mean, I fluctuated. I had so much money on the street when I got busted in properties, and I'd say maybe $20 million in assets. And it's so funny because nothing was, concrete in my name. So when I get out or when I'm in prison wondering like how's it going. It's like a bunch of cockroaches, right? Everyone just takes everything you have ever earned. And, you know, I'm telling my lawyer, call this guy, see if we can get this, try to get this. And everyone just steals from you. But that's the game when you're involved in this shady business. That's what happens.
And how old are you at that point?
At the point, I think I was 32 at the point of my arrest. Now I'm 43.
Okay. And so you go to that golf course that day. Tell us about that day that you were arrested.
7:10 in the morning, man. Tea time. I'm playing with Al Wilson. We're supposed to negotiate a drop off. I think it was like a $250,000 drop off and another kilos going to Australia. And I think I had I want to say I had 50,000 with me in my bag, and we were supposed to be gambling because these guys were playing the part, right? They're gambling with me. So I had a 7:10 tea time, and I remember El Jefe told me, you ain't golfing today. You're meeting with the feds. He says, you're going to be in a 6x8 for the next 20 years. And I knew it. He knew it. I knew it. But I still went to that meeting. And I showed up at that Aviara Country Club and no one was there. I was like, man, this is weird. I'm like half an hour early. Why is nobody here? Nobody in the parking lot. And so I left. I went to McDonald's. And I took my encrypted phone out. And I was like, man, do I just run over it with I was driving my Porsche Panamera at the time. Do I run over it and just go down to Tijuana and just get to a safety house? I'm safe over there. And then that message went off and Al Wilson says, hey, where you at? I'm in the country club. I'm in the locker room. Come on. I'm like, all right, I'm going, I'm going back. And I pull up and the caddy's there and he's shaking like a leaf. The kid, he's like, hi, Mr. Hansen. How you doing? I'm like, hey, where is everybody? I don't know, Mr. Hansen. And I open my trunk and he takes the clubs out and puts it on the golf cart. And I go around my passenger seat where I keep my man bag, my satchel with that 50,000 and my 2 encrypted phones and my personal phone. And I go grab it and I turn around and boom, there's 15 agents coming out of the bushes. There's a helicopter in the sky. New South Wales Police Department's there. And
really?
Yeah, they had the entourage and they finally put those cuffs on Steve. And I was like, finally, it's over. People, asked me when I got to prison, aren't you scared? The cartel's involved. I'm like, I'm not scared. I'm relieved. Everyone realizes for me, it's over. I never have to go back to that life. It's done. I can finally say I did what I did. Now it's time to move on in life.
That's interesting to hear your reaction to that, because you're like, this is relief for you.
Today, I you don't know how happy I am. I don't have anything. I tell people inside prison, I said, I'd rather be a poor man on the street than a rich man in prison. Yeah. And later on in this story, I got my redemption with this crooked attorney. And
yeah, so let's before you tell us that, you go to did you plead guilty or did you go to trial?
No, 2.5 years. I just watched this thing turn into a RICO act. 22 guys got indicted on my gambling operation and international ties, and everyone got indicted. And I'm just watching this thing happen. And my lawyer's like, you're not going to beat these guys. I already knew I couldn't beat them. But they kept asking, come on, tell on the cartel. Come on, tell on the Italian mafia. Tell these people that you're working with. I'm like, dude, it's not going to happen. I can't. You guys don't understand. I have family members that still live in Mexico. They'll be killed. Yeah. Not doing it. And a lot of people are like, man, are you crazy? I said, no, I'm not crazy. I'm not going to do that to my family. I know what I signed up for. And a lot of people think oh, he's out because he told on these people. No, I did. I cooperated with the government, Steve. I did. I cooperated on my attorney that was crooked. Mm-hmm. And I had the opportunity. My lawyer says you have the opportunity of a lifetime. This doesn't happen.
Now, was this before you were sentenced?
No, it was 5 years later. I got sentenced in 2017, I think.
To what?
21 years.
In federal prison?
In federal prison.
And the best you can do is 85% of that time. You only get 15% off your time.
I think now you can do a little less because the First Step Act, which is you can earn up to a couple of years off and halfway house. And so you're still doing, 70%.
Yep. So you're 5 years in Fed prison?
I think it was 2020. I've already been down since 15. And I'm sitting in my cell at 2 a.m. and I get a knock. They opened up my 6x8 cell. And they said, Hanson, report to R&D.
At 2 o'clock in the morning?
I think it was like 2 a.m. And they told me, you're getting extradited. Yeah.
Can I call my lawyer?
Yeah. I said, what do you mean extradited? Like, yeah, you can't talk to anybody. And they started moving me to all these different these like we left Lompoc, and I spent the night in a like downtown LA in a jail. And I didn't know. I still can't get hold of my lawyer. And then come Monday, they get me to LAX airport, and I have the New South Wales organized crime squad there. 3 guys picking me up. I'm like, you guys got to tell me what's going on. They're like, we can't speak on it. I'm freaking out. I'm like, what do you mean you can't speak on it? I said, I need to call my lawyer. Like, mate, we can't tell you. I'm like, man, but I'll tell you what, Steve, when I got sentenced to that 21 years, there's this one thing that happened the next day. My lawyer came into the visiting room and says, Hanson, do not like give up on life. Like I wanted to end my life. I was so depressed. And he says, you never know what can happen. And he mentioned the word Rule 35. And to this day, I'll never forget going in that law library and figuring out what the Rule 35 was.
That gives you a new lease on life if you cooperate. That's for our listeners.
Yeah. In Rule 35, I said, you know what? I'm going to study this, and I'm going to make sure what he was telling me like is true. In that back of my mind, that Rule 35 stuck to me, and I had hope, right? I said, I'm going to get a Rule 35. I know it. When's my chance? Like, well, how is this going to happen? He says, you remember you had that crooked lawyer, and that's the guy that got you indicted. He says, remember all those discovery tapes we listened to about him telling you to do this and that? He goes, you never know. You never know. And it stuck to me. That day I got sentenced to 21 years. I was like, man, maybe I should just go buy some heroin from the Serranos in the prison and just do a big shot. And then I remember all those people that showed up to my court date, 15 people, half from Mexico, some people from Australia, some people from Montana, right? And I saw my mother and my father cry, and I'm like, man, I'm not killing myself. That's weak. I'm going to do it for them. And then the next day when the lawyer told me that, it kept me motivated. I said, that's someone that's upstairs going to look after me one day. And that day came, Steve. And when they came, I knew once I got to that Australian prison what I was there for. I wasn't getting extradited for a RICO act. I wasn't getting more time on my sentence. The lawyer was finally taking it to trial. He thought that he could beat the system and his way to this fake story that he's told them, and how he was this innocent lawyer. And I had the ace in my sleeve. And
so that's what they wanted. They wanted you to testify against that lawyer.
Yeah. And I said, you know what? I'm going to testify. The guy that got me made me go in front of this tape and tell these lies to these government officials in order for him to reward and try to make, $500,000 off this thing. I said, where do I sign up?
After you did all that in Australia, when did the Rule 35 kick in?
COVID hit. 2 years, Steve. I'm in prison inside my cell for 23 and a half hours a day.
In Australia?
And 6 months in Australia. And I'm just stuck. Don't get to leave the cell. Single man cell. I'm in with Hell's Angels, nomads, rebels, all these biker gangs, terrorists, everybody's single cell. And I'm just talking to these guys. And I'm like, man, what have I gotten myself into? And so really touchy matters, Steve, because I can't really tell these guys what I'm there for. They think I'm some cartel member. And I remember I'm telling them, like, hey, dude, I don't know what I'm here for. I'm just playing dumb. You're not going to tell these guys.
No.
You can't.
They'll get you killed.
I'll be killed as soon as I use the phone. And so I'm just playing it cool, man. And then finally the trial happens, and these articles start coming out. And you got these, Hell's Angels going, you testified, man? And I'm like, I didn't testify. I've told them the guy that got me indicted, you guys can talk all you want, but if you were in my shoes, you'd do the same thing. And then I finally got the U.S. Marshals finally came 3 months after my trial. Mm-hmm. And they picked me up, put me on a G6, flew me back to America because COVID, obviously everything was closed. So they had to fly on the G6 to pick me up. They had 6 marshals. And they flew me back. And I landed in MDCLA, and I remember I spent like a year there, and there was no movement. COVID was still going. And then I went to Victorville and has to spend, I want to say, like 6 months there, and same thing. The movement was terrible. And finally, after 2 years of COVID lockdown, they finally opened up the prison system. And I think it was like 2022. I started to write my book, California Kid. And then 2023, I'm like calling my lawyer, like, dude, it's already been 2 years. What's going on? Like, are we going to get any action? He's like, we can't move on it. It's got to be the government that moves on a Rule 35. I'm like, man, this is like, so we're trusting the government? He goes, you have to believe in them, man. You did what you did. Let the system fall in place here. He says, you got to just wait. It was the longest 2 years of my life.
I can't imagine.
Because every day I'm in my cell praying. I'm like, come on, when is this going to happen? I know this is going to happen. I got to see my dad. He's getting old. I got to golf with him. Like I'm just praying every day. He's like, we're going to meet the judge. We're going to go see him, and we're going to see what happens. He goes, but remember, the judge didn't like you. He gave you 21 years. You had a mandatory minimum of 10. He says he didn't like you. I'm like, but man, I did everything I was supposed to do. Like, someone's got to look after me here. And he's like, you got to leave it up to the judge. I left it up to the man upstairs.
There you go.
So they go, and he says that I've never seen this with this judge, Judge Hayes. He, on your 21-year sentence, he drops your sentence down to 12 and a half years. He says you've earned good time. You got your master's degree while in prison. He goes, you got, looks like you got 2 years halfway house already earned. You got another year off with the first step back. He goes, you're going to be released in 2024.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that sense of despair turned back into hope.
Yeah, it came back. Man, 20 months in the halfway house, and I was like, wow, there's somebody up there that's watching me. And I know I broke the law, and I know I deserve to go to prison, but obviously the Lord, believed that I didn't belong in there for 21 years.
Very encouraged to hear that.
Yeah.
That there's no such thing, in my opinion, as luck and coincidence. And our regular listeners hear me say this almost every show. Everything happens for a reason, and I think it's the good Lord has a plan for all of us.
For sure.
So now what can you tell us as to what you're doing now? Your book is out. Again, everybody, The California Kid, check this out on Amazon. I'm telling you, please check the book out because it is that good. If it sucked, I'd tell you it sucks, and I'm telling you it's that good. So.
No, I'm just promoting the book, telling the story, right? I spoke to youth that are in the inner city, just trying to keep them from going down that illegal activity that I went down. Trying to show them, like, if you cross that line of illegal activity, that's just no going back. It's impossible. I don't care. It's just that little taste of it is going to keep you to continue going. Because look at what happened. It started with college, then it snowballed to the gambling, and then next thing you know, you're in federal prison. So there's no positive. They catch you no matter what. Look at Mayo Zambada's been on the run for a ghost for 20 years. They caught him. The rest of his life, he's never getting out. Chapo, same thing. Pablo Escobar, he ended up dead. You're never going to beat these guys. And my advice is, like, help the youth, help someone that's thinking about going down that path. And, I've been distributing these illegal narcotics, and it's my turn to give back. And, I wrote the book. Hopefully a part 2 will be coming out about my life behind the fence. I started a brand that I started in federal prison, this protein ice cream brand, and I've been pushing that and just trying to give back in a positive way.
Mm-hmm. What do you see for the future of Owen Hansen?
My future would look like, from putting bad things on the streets to now distributing healthy treats. And this protein ice cream I've made tastes like real ice cream, but it's healthy, 20 grams, no sugar added. I feel like I could make an Otter Pop for kids that has protein in it with no sugar added, and giving back to the community that supported me, while I was doing positive things, helping athletes, talking to corporate events, maybe speaking to law enforcement about my mistakes and how we can turn it into a positive.
Mm-hmm. Any other projects you can talk about right now? Because I know there are, but I won't disclose them. If you don't.
They do say there's a docuseries coming out. I can confirm that there is something coming out this year. Yeah, I don't know when, but Mark Wahlberg's company was nice enough to tell the real story, not the fake story that so many people have been telling.
Excellent. So, you know, a lot of the guests that I bring here on the show, they have a different story. I mean, the vast majority of people I bring on Game of Crimes are on what I call the right side of the thin blue line. We learn so much from you guys because I never lived any of that life like you did. And I'm not a police officer anymore, but still there's lessons to be learned. But so many of these people have been through instances, whether they've been shot in the line of duty, whatever it might be. I mean, there's a variety of reasons out there, but they could have let their situation lead them down to the path of despair to where there is no hope. You consider suicide. A lot of police officers consider suicide today. More police officers die in the United States from suicide than any other reason for dying. No gunshots, stabs, car crashes, whatever it is. But you didn't let your past determine your future. You know, you've realized your mistakes. Our legal system is set up that you did something wrong, you pled guilty to it, you were sentenced, you served your sentence, you're good to go now. Some people think it's crazy that I bring former criminals on the show. I believe in our justice system. I believe in our Constitution, and I believe that you agreed to do your time. You've done the right thing, and that now you deserve that second chance. So that's the reason I bring folks on here like you. I'm excited for your future. I didn't know if you'd mentioned the Mark Wahlberg thing or not. I'm glad you did because I really respect a lot of things. Wahlberg is very good at supporting DEA, especially when it comes to children, trying to do the right thing with them. So I support him 100% as well. I guess I'm just at the point where I don't want to waste any more of your time. I've had you on here for about 3 hours. I know we got a little break here to grab some lunch, and then we're going to go out on stage for a couple of hours and talk about this all over again. You'll be sick of me by this afternoon. But thank you so much for coming in here, for being open, for being honest, for being transparent, for not holding back. You lived up to your agreement with me. And I know you had to get permission from probation to come out here and do this. And if there's any questions, have them call me. I will absolutely vouch for you today. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this. You're getting I talk about you get a look behind the badge. Well, here you're getting a look behind the bad guy side. And I don't even know what the equivalent that would be. I guess I could say behind the gun, but guns were not involved in this, so that wouldn't be the right way to present this. But do appreciate you coming back. Any last words you want to leave with us, Owen?
Just make no excuse. And as a Trojan, you just keep fighting on.
There you go. That's a USC thing. And it's not University of South Carolina. I see you got the SC hat on over there. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for continuing to come back to Game of Crimes. Next week, going to have another fantastic guest on here. Go out and get Ryan's book one more time, The California Kid. Get it on Amazon. I've got a feeling eventually he's going to have a website.
Yeah, I do have a website.
Oh, what you got?
It's the same as the book, thecaliforniakid.com. And if you buy it from my website, I sign it and personalize it for everybody that goes on the website.
Same price as Amazon?
Same price as Amazon, free shipping.
Sounds familiar, doesn't it? That's called DEA Narcos, where you can get a copy of Manhunters. And that was a cheesy commercial for my book. But show the guy some love. He's done the right thing. We want him to continue to do the right thing. With your support, he can. All right? He doesn't have a job right now. He needs some income. So that's why he's doing all this. Again, if you're not on YouTube yet, do me a favor, go over there, type in Game of Crimes Podcast in the search bar, click on the subscribe button, come over and join the fun. On Facebook, go over and join. We have Game of Crimes fans page. There's some crazy people on there, but we have a lot of fun there. You can also see us on Facebook at Game of Crimes Podcast. We're on all the other social media platforms, including TikTok now. And I know Morgan's probably rolling over in his grave. Well, he's still alive, but he's probably not happy with me that we started TikTok. But check us out anywhere you can, the Game of Crimes Podcast. Until next week, God bless you all. I appreciate you coming back every week to play the biggest, the baddest, the most dangerous game of all, the Game of Crimes. Love you guys. See you next episode.